Hello.
Pickle, 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 pickle,
Hello,
pickle,
everyone.
pickle,
Coming to you
pickle,
from the car
pickle,
today because
pickle,
I thought, what fun places can we do podcasts at? And a car is one. Yes, we are both remaining socially responsible and distant from people and quarantining if needing. Currently en route to Columbia, Maryland to visit the sister who I haven't seen in a bit. So excited for that. Oh, also, Mom got me this new fish necklace thing. It's very pretty. Thanks, Mom. Welcome. Postal Pickle update is a postponement of the Postal Pickle. Unfortunately, I've been crunching numbers and everything and realized that I'm spending a little bit more money that I don't have at the moment just due to being unemployed and such. As much as I love being able to send pickles to people and spread the pickle love, it's just a little bit hard for me at the moment. I still plan to do these pickle podcasts because I love to be able to shout out and promote different independent companies that have really creative ideas, like the one you're about to watch with making pickles from alcohol and beer. Pretty cool. So I still definitely want to do the podcasts, but I'm just going to have this August box and then September box with Completely Pickled, which we featured last podcast. And so if you're interested in still getting in September, you can still sign up for that. But after that, we're going to do a little postponement and we'll see. I have been asking the companies that I've already interviewed as well that I'm also the companies that I'm going to interview, if they can come up with like a discount code or something that the viewers of the podcast can put in if they're interested in getting the pickles, so that way they can still get some business, but you guys can get a little bit of a perk.
pickle, 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 pickle,
All right, Mom, what do you say to a pickle in the morning?
How did you sleep?
How did those sleep?
How did you?
No.
Okay.
Rise and brine.
Ah, even better.
pickle, 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 pickle.
So here we are with the Tipsy Pickle. Like always, I'd love for you to introduce yourself, where you're located, what your company is. Go ahead.
So I'm Angela Gerace. I'm located in Winooski, Vermont, and my company is the Tipsy Pickle. I make pickles in collaboration with Vermont breweries and distilleries. So there's a little bit of their product in the brine of the pickles that I use. So the alcohol does get cooked out during the processing.
Hence the
So,
name.
Yes,
The
hence
Tipsy
the name.
Pickle. Any interesting facts about yourself? Things that I know that obviously you love pickles, but is this your main occupation? Do you?
No. So I guess I originally went to school when I was first started out, graduated high school. I went to culinary school and I worked in the food industry for years. And then I decided I didn't want to do that anymore. And so I went back to school and I got a degree in legal studies and forensic science. And I worked here at the Vermont Medical Examiner's Office for a while. Now I work for a police station, as well as pickling. But then, we had a garden and I grew up gardening and just kind of being in that environment. So it just wound up becoming something where I could tie both educations into one.
Yeah.
Kind of. I use them both, but separately.
I just had a thought about like the pickle police. I had no idea that you were a police person. How is being a police officer right now?
I'm not a police officer.
Not officer.
I work for the police department, but I'm their administrator.
Gotcha.
But in Vermont, it's we're very fortunate here in Vermont. It's the rest of the world is having a much more difficult time than we are. I'm so very lucky to be where I am.
Awesome. And so with Vermont, being in Vermont, and you are have a garden, is that something that you still do? Do you still try to garden?
Yep, I still do my garden. My business has grown enough that, and I'm just busy with so many things in general. They're just saying that most Vermonters have about 27 different jobs that they're doing at once. And so my cucumbers come from our local farms. I'll grow some, but I don't give it the love that it needs. So I don't make enough for the demand that I have.
Yeah.
So I have to resource through local farmers here in Vermont.
Of course. Yeah.
But they like that. So it's fine.
That's very true. Always supporting local business
Right.
is what it's all about.
Yes.
So when did you begin your pickling, would you say?
I've been doing it my whole life, but the Tipsy Pickle actually was kind of born back in 2014 when a friend of mine who worked from one of the breweries here in Middlebury, Vermont, Otter Creek Brewing, actually, my friend Michaela, they were having a festival, and she saw, because I was posting on Facebook and stuff, all the pickles that I was making, and my friends and family really liked it. So she wanted me to try selling them at the festival. And I, from having samples out and people trying them, I got tons of reviews. And then I started having people contact me, trying to find out where they could get my pickles. So that's when I knew that was something that I could do as a business as well.
Yeah. So
it bloomed from there.
I know that you, we'll talk about this eventually, that you partner with different breweries and everything. But when you first started out, was it just, you were just doing a specific, specific kind of alcohol?
I started out so one of the craft beer industry kind of all blew up at once, but in the starting, the very first craft beer, and I could be wrong, but as far as I know, here in Vermont was Magic Hat kind of set the stage, and then along came Switchback, and then Otter Creek, and now there's tons of them. There's so many, it's insane. But when I first started, I was making them with Switchback, and then for this event that my friend invited me to, I made some with Otter Creek Brewing.
So when you were just starting on your own, not really, and it was always with alcohol? Was that always the intent?
Yeah, well, that's what sold. No, it wasn't always with alcohol. When I first started, I did traditional dill or bread and butter, and I did a lot of experimental stuff. I would make barbecue sauces and sell salsa and tomato sauce, just because I do have a ton of tomatoes growing in my garden. But the focus and what I got from feedback from people from doing events, as I just continued doing events down the road, was more focused towards the pickles, and that's just what wound up kind of being my specialty. So I put my focus and drive into that.
Yeah. And then I know my friend actually went to culinary school too, but hers was more towards baking and bakery, but she had to take a wine class, I know. And she talked about, she's like, if you got a C, that was basically gold. She's like, it's so hard.
It's so hard.
Did you have to take that class? And do you find that knowing a lot about different types of alcohols and how they work has kind of helped you?
So I did have to take a wine class. She probably went to the Culinary Institute of America.
Yeah.
My sister actually went there too. I stayed local. I stayed in Vermont, and I went to the New England Culinary Institute, which is actually in Montpelier here. But the wine class was very hard. But it didn't. I'm sure in the background it played some part, because learning it's NECI, New England Culinary Institute, was very French cuisine oriented, and French people love cooking with wine. So a lot of our dishes had wine, mainly wine in them, not so much beer. And at that time, there really wasn't any craft beer. It was probably, went to culinary school back in 1999, so it was a long time ago. But I guess they did teach me how to do some flavoring. My mom always cooked with wine as well. So I knew it was something that you could use with food, but I don't really recall even how I put beer in brine. I think like our water got cut off or something when I was brining, and I was like, so it just kind of went from there.
Yep, there you go. So let's talk about your types of pickles. I think you told me you said you have 18 different kinds?
Yes, I have 18 different kinds. The most popular that I make are sours, spicy sours. People in Vermont here really seem to like spicy stuff. So I have a few IPAs that are pretty spicy. I also have some staple pickles that are like sweet. I have a sweet dirty mare, which is made with citizen cider here in Burlington, Vermont. That's a sweet pickle. More of a traditional sweet. And then I also have sorry, I say and I can hear myself talking.
It's okay. Whenever I go back,
do it all. I'm like
whenever I go back and watch these, the amount of times I'm like,
why do I keep doing this?
Sorry. It's okay. It makes it natural. It makes you you.
It's true. So I also have people in general like this pickle called a wickle, which is like a spicy bread and butter pickle. They sell them it's like a chain. It's not a small business, but they're pretty good, but they're like a bread and butter spicy kind of pickle. So I got asked multiple times to make a spicy sweet pickle. So I have a couple of those that I make as well. I make a maple breakfast stout, which is made with 14-Star Brewery in St. Albans, Vermont, which is a sweet pickle, but it's also pretty spicy. And I also make a bread and butter with Wild Heart Distillery with their Burning Ambers, which is a type of vodka. And it's different spices than a traditional bread and butter, but it has a little bit of hot pepper in it. So it has a little bit of spice to it, but not hot. So you can like get a little bit of the heat when you take a bite.
Mm-hmm. So when people ask you like, oh, I really like this wickle, can you make something like this? How do you decide, okay, yes, I'm going to do this and I'm going to use this alcohol or this beer? Like, how do you decide that?
I don't.
Okay.
It's kind of, what happens usually is I'll be working with one of the breweries. Like I have staple breweries and distilleries that I work with. Smugglers Not Distillery is actually the largest company that I work with. They're amazing people, and I make 4 different styles with them. And really, what I'll do is they'll be like, hey, we want you to try to make something, do whatever you want. So I'm like, okay, what do I feel like creating? I'll sample a little bit of the product and see what I would use it for. And so I guess, for example, Smuggler's Notch, I make they have an 802 gin. So I make an 802 gin pickle with them, and it's a very mild sour, but it goes great in like a gin martini because it's not a strong sour. It's just very mild. It kind of reminds me a little bit more of like a traditional kosher pickle, but it's water processed.
Gotcha. So with these 18 different kinds and your process of making them, is this something, do you have 18 always available, or
no,
do you kind of plan I was gonna say, if it's just you, that's a lot. So do you plan out like this month I have this, or?
Yes. So I try to keep at least 2 cases of every kind in my inventory. But it really depends on orders that I get from the places that I sell my pickles at, because they always come first. I should have a bigger inventory right now because there's no events this year, so I'm not like selling at events. But moving and selling a house is really messing up my schedule.
Yeah.
Throwing a kink
well,
in
I mean,
everything.
it's kind of a blessing in itself right there. It's like giving you have more time now to actually move. Like imagine if things were normal and you had to move, make your pickles out, like
it'd be tough.
Yeah. So what is do you mind talking about your process a little bit, how long it takes, like how you make them? Yeah.
So what I like to do, so if I get the cucumbers from a local farm here in Vermont, they're like picked that morning. So for me, the best time to use the cucumber in any produce is like right off the back. during off season, I get my cucumbers through a company called Black River Produce that also locally resources, but obviously January, there's no Vermont farms with cucumbers. So then they'll come from a little bit further out south, where, so like Florida, if they have to come from Florida, or California, wherever the growing season is. But they do their best to get all organic cucumbers. So they're a great company to work with as well. But I get them and I'm like, once I start going, I don't stop, and I'm very meticulous about it. I do all the hand packing. I don't use any machinery, because it's just me doing it. I'm still that small, but I like to just get my cucumbers out. I like to get them washed and scrubbed, and then I just start chopping them all. And then once I have them all cut, then I'll set my jars up where, I'll get a bushel, which is 50 pounds. And I know in my head that 50 pounds makes about 6 cases of 12 jars. So then I'll go ahead and I'll get those jars. I'll, make sure that they're sterilized. And then I go ahead and I fill them up with the spices first, make sure I have all the lids for them before I start anything.
Ooh.
And then from there, I'll set up my kitchen space with the canners and the stock pots that I'm going to use for the brine, and just get everything laid out. And so, and then it comes into the packing. And then after the packing, I'll start the brining process. And then, which is usually most of them just start with a very traditional brine, which you just bring to a rolling boil. And then I water process all of my cucumbers. So that's, if someone doesn't know what water processing is, it's when you use a rolling, boiling pot of water. It's like insanely hot. And then you can put the pint jars in that. I use pint, which is 16 ounces. So they have to sit for 15 minutes, before I can then take them out and then do the next batch. So it's a labor of love. It's an all day adventure
So when you make
I get
your
into
brine,
it.
is it, do you have like the vinegar with the alcohol? Or is it just the?
Yep.
Okay.
No, it all goes together. Some people, I know I'm not the only one who makes pickles with alcohol or anything like that in it. Some people like to add a tablespoon into the jars and then add the brine to it. I just don't want to wind up wasting any product. Vermont craft beer and spirits are very expensive. So I'll bring the brine to a boil, and then I'll add what I need for the alcohol into the brine from there. And then I won't bring it back to a boil. But from that point, then I'll add it into the packed jars, and then it gets brought to that high point where it cancels out the alcohol in it during the water processing.
Yeah. So
if that makes sense.
Yeah. So what's the difference between if you didn't water process and you do water process?
So water processing is what I just described. Other ways of doing it, some people use pressure cookers to do the canning. I've seen jars explode that way, so it just makes me nervous. And I would need I would probably need 10 pressure cookers to do what I do, which is too much regulating for me. I mean, a water canner, I just set the timer, and then when the timer goes off, I know I just need to take them out. Some other people can make pickles they're called refrigerator pickles, which is like a kosher pickle where you just kind of you add the cucumbers and the brine in a jar or in a pot, and you stick it in the fridge and you let it sit there for a few weeks, and it'll slowly absorb the flavor. It's a great thing to do with leftover brine in a pickle jar. If you really like the brine, you can just throw some cucumbers in it after, and those cucumbers will pick up that pickle flavor. And then there's another process called ice pickles, there's fermenting, and then there's ice pickles, where you actually make pickles in the brine and you throw them in the freezer. And in time, it makes a very soft cucumber, but in time, they wind up getting that flavor as well.
Interesting.
Yeah, and then fermenting, I've done fermenting a little bit with sauerkraut. It's just something you have to have a very controlled environment to do it correctly. And, I have a toddler, so there's no such thing as a controlled environment in my house.
So I on pickle day, it's like, get a nanny or someone to take this child away.
Well, I have a kitchen space that I use, so I'm not in my house. When I first started,
Okay.
I did all my canning inside my house, but I've grown big enough where I have to do it outside my house for laws
Gotcha.
and regulations. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So future wise, talking about that, what would be the hope for your company? Just to continue kind of along the lines, or?
I don't know. I mean, I feel like if I were to get bigger, it may turn more into a kind of a commercial thing where I would need a processing plant. I don't know if I want to go that route because I enjoy the hands on. I have I maybe like one employee like get to a point where I can just have an employee or two would be great. But I also have a really hard time of letting someone else like
Oh,
help.
yeah.
It's just I'm very anal, retentive about these things. I'm like, this is how I do it. Why aren't you doing it the same way? So I don't know. I definitely am enjoying the growth that I'm having. I guess my dream one day would be to have like a small like pickle business, very small, like not just me, but maybe like 10 employees each in each state making pickles specifically with each state's small craft
Oh,
breweries
that would
and
be cool.
distilleries. Yeah, I like dream goal. It probably will never happen, but it would be fun.
It would be like the traveling Tipsy Pickle or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's kind of cool. Like passing along, like Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants, but Sisterhood of the Traveling
Right.
Pickle.
Yeah, or just have a set location in each state. Because I'm not sure of what New York's laws are, for example, for their craft brews and their distillers, but in Vermont, it's very regulated. A lot of the brewers can't sell out of state. So, because they can't, I try my best to accommodate. I mean, I can get their products out of state better than they can because the alcohol's cooked out. But I don't know. It's being able to just be in Vermont and make specific products with Vermont. I enjoy. If I started doing stuff with like New York, then I would want to have a facility specifically in New York that just did New York stuff.
Yeah.
So they didn't cross. Yeah. Or I don't.
So normally, I mean, obviously COVID kind of puts a damper on like farmers markets and everything, but were you in farmers markets and stuff like that? Is that where people could find you?
No, I haven't been in farmers markets. I've been at mainly festivals. Vermont has a lot of drinking festivals. So that's where I usually wind up going because it just fits in perfectly. There's the Vermont Brewers Festival. Unfortunately, all the festivals have been canceled for this year. But what's great about these festivals is that I can be like, try some of my switchback pickles while you're drinking some switchback, so they can kind of get both flavors on both realms. And I already have good relationships with the brewers and distillers. So it's nice. Farmer markets might be something that I do down the road. But it would be hard to choose which one to do because they're all amazing and there's so many around the state.
Mm-hmm. So if people were like, oh my gosh, I really want to try her pickles, where could they do it? Do you have a website?
I do. My website just came up yesterday, actually, thetipsypicklevt.com. To purchase pickles, though, for people out of state online or far out in Vermont, we have got some far regions here. Most of all of my online ordering pretty much is done through a sliceofvermont.com. They have the widest selection of the pickles that I make. You can also buy them online at Smuggler's Notch, and they sell online the products that I make with them. And Stowe Cider actually sells my pickles online too with products that I make with their ciders.
Great.
I have jets flying over my
Just say,
can you hear that?
I just did. I'm so used.
I'm close to an airport. They're so loud.
I'm right by the one in New York, the subway. So I usually feel the subway every like 10 minutes or something like that. If it's not noisy,
my house shakes. Yeah, when the planes fly by, I'm like,
no, you're good. Well, I was like, as long as that's not the child making, I was like,
no, she's not her. She's in school.
Oh, good. Great. So now my favorite time to ask is your fun fun, weird pickle fact fun times. What is your like a favorite combination of food that you like with a pickle? Like I love a pickle and a
I like them in I like them in my food. Like I love tuna sandwiches with pieces of pickles in them. Or
yes.
like I also really love Bloody Marys when they come out with like 30 different condiments on them. Like, that's like this tall and there's like
The
bacon and a
bougie,
pickle and
yeah.
like, yeah, I love stuff like that. So that always gets me pretty excited. I also, and my mom got me onto this, is that growing up, because my mom made pickles too, is a peanut butter and Swiss cheese sandwich with
So good.
mustard or a pickle inside of it.
Wow, I love peanut butter and pickles together for sure. But
It's so good.
I haven't. So you do peanut butter Swiss mustard pickle?
Yeah, if possible, or mustard or a pickle. So depending on what's
Wow.
available.
I've never tried it with the cheese.
I don't. Yeah, it just adds more of a mellow tone to it.
Yeah,
So,
probably. No, I'm a
can't knock it
huge.
till you try it.
I'm a huge peanut butter pickle fan. I'm for sure.
It's so good.
So do you have a favorite pickle recipe?
Well, I have my mom. My mom makes my favorite pickle is not one that I make. My mom makes these pickles called sunshine pickles, and she actually got the recipe from the Joy of Cooking cookbook. So it's still out there, and you can Google it online. And they're called sunshine pickles, but you use ripe cucumbers. They're cucumbers that have been on the vine too long, so they turn like an orange or a yellow. And then you have to peel the skin off of them, and you have to deseed them, and then chop them up, and you cook them in a brine, kind of like a bread and butter, until they become transparent. So it's a soft pickle, but they're so good. It's like my favorite thing. I made them before, and I think I hurt her feelings a little bit, so I stopped.
Oh,
Some lines you don't cross.
yep, very true. That's awesome to hear that it runs in the family. Pickling runs in the family. I made one time a lemon. It was, instead of like vinegar, it was lemon juice for the pickles.
Interesting.
And it was more of like a savory pickle, which was, yeah, I really enjoyed that.
I'll try that. That actually sounds pretty good.
Yeah, but literally anything, I will eat any food that with a pickle. The only like, I'm not a big spice person, so that's my only, and bread and butter is not my favorite, but I won't hate. I love all pickles, and I wish I could do the spice. It's just like, I love the taste of spice. It just does awful things.
Oh yeah, I can't eat hot things either. That's why people are always like, which one's the hottest? I'm like, pre-COVID, when I could have samples out and I would do events, and I'm like, I think they're all hot. I don't know. Like,
exactly. I'm like, flaming hot Cheetos are the death of me. So, right? I mean, yeah, I'm the same way. Awesome.
Like, you tell me which one's hottest.
Yes. Great. Well, I don't have any more questions or concerns for you. Do you have anything else you want to mention, shout out? I know you have Instagram, the Tipsy Pickle.
Yeah,
website.
Instagram, Facebook, all the social media norms. I'm on Twitter too, but I don't really ever check Twitter. I just kind of have a Twitter account that links to my Instagram. I'm definitely one of those.
Awesome. And hopefully people can go to Slice of Vermont, order some pickles. I know I totally will. And I love your shirt. Do you sell your shirts?
I did. I don't have any more right now. And then I was going to get some for events this year, because I've had people ask, but then, so I'm like, maybe next year.
Next year. Okay. I will be on the lookout for that.
Okay.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Great. Well, thanks so much for talking to me, and I'm best of luck with your move.
Thank you so much. I truly appreciate it.
Yes, no problem. And sending love from New York City. Got to heal the country.
Oh, yes, we do.
One pickle at a time.
Yes.
Awesome. All right. Thanks so much.
You're welcome. Bye.
Yeah. So that was my interview with the Tipsy Pickle. Like we just mentioned, please check out her website, her Instagram, if you guys are interested in getting in some alcoholic pickles. They sound pretty amazing. But yeah, hope you enjoyed.
pickle, pa pickle, pa pickle, pickle.
Hear ye, hear ye. Our pickle fact today is, Mom,
Mom knows nothing about pickles.
who invented the phrase "in a pickle"?
In a pickle. I'd say it's the British invented the phrase, and I will guess King George the 15th.
No, it's actually Shakespeare.
There you go.
Shakespeare. He coined the phrase "in a pickle," not really invented it. And also, he came up with the word cow.
Cow?
Yep. So,
Huh.
thank you, Shakespeare, for pickles and cows. So, Mom, since you brought up the dill dough,
I didn't need to.
our New York brines today, our headline is Penis Fish and Sea Pickles. Weird creatures wash ashore amid Northern California storms. Look at this picture of a sea pickle. Very interesting. So, article starts out. Beachgoers may have found themselves in quite a pickle, thanks Shakespeare, last week trying to identify thousands of gelatinous sea creatures that washed ashore during a strong storm in Northern California. The Monterey Bay Aquarium responded that
Monterey Bay. Redo that. Monterey Bay.
Mother knows best. The Monterey Bay Aquarium explained that big waves and strong currents pushed these pyrosomes, which is the formal name for sea pickles, onto the beach. They are similar in appearance to penis fish. So what is a penis fish? It's a fat innkeeper worm.
Oh, there you go. It's a fact.
There you go. That helps explain it. But sea pickles are actually planktonic colonies of filter feeders. So, like SpongeBob, like plankton.
Oh.
Is he a penis fish? Or is he a sea pickle? The world may never know. So, fun fact, pyrosome, which actually means fire bodies, is a nod to the creature's bioluminescence. So while on land, the cigar-shaped organisms appear to be a pale shade of pink. I'm guessing that's like the penis side of it. Stop. However, in the ocean, they are bright pink and create their own blue and green light, hence the pickles. So I guess when on land, they look like the penis fish, but they're actually sea pickles that just need a tan. So the penis fish burrow in the sand, but the sea pickles drift afloat along with the ocean currents. Pickles float, everyone. And hey, guess what this is probably the result of? Oceanic heat wave. Global warming. Yay. And last fact about this, scientists have been trying to study sea pickles for years, but have been hampered by the creature's short lifespan in captivity. And maybe from people eating them thinking that they're pickles? Probably not.
Doubt that.
Pa pickle, pa pickle, 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 pa pickle, pa pickle, pickle.
This is who we traveled for. Me! And I traveled for them.
So you can go in down that way, or one of these side ones, I guess, and loop around.
That's what we can do.
Pa
So.
pickle, 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 pa pickle, pa 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 pickle, pickle, pickle.